Hello and welcome to Biorusage Lessons. Today we are going to be talking about disease and how our body protects ourselves against them. So the first thing to talk about disease, we are actually going to be talking about pathogens. Pathogens are stuff that can cause us harm. Usually we think of pathogens as viruses, as bacteria, but actually there are many different types of pathogens. And actually, there are even some non-living stuff that may be considered pathogens. Anything that is kind of small, that's kind of trying to invade us, that can cause us harm, is going to be a pathogen. Anything that your body is going to be fighting against, it can be considered a pathogen. So let's take a look on different categories of pathogens. Here we have the most important ones. This foreign body, this foreign stuff that can cause you harm. We are going to have some characteristics types over there. The most common ones that are quite easy to think are the living stuff like bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and some parasites like plateumintus, nematelmintus, that kind of stuff. But we also have viruses that are non-living structure but organic, but that interact with living stuff. So yes, of course, they are pathogens. In spite of not being alive, and proteins are also considered pathogens. I can think from the top of my mind in some proteins that can cause us harm, like snake venom. That can be considered a venom, but in a certain sense could be kind of a pathogen. But if you think on pathogens, only things that suffer replication, then there's a group of proteins that can suffer replication, and they are called prions. So the prions, the most famous one is the mad cow disease, and they are capable of replication. They are capable of being copied. They don't copy themselves; they are copied, and they can cause lots of harm. So we have several groups of stuff, but for our purpose here is going to be stuff that can cause us harm. Okay, just to bear in mind when you talk about fighting disease. Many people think, okay, no, we found out antibiotics, so now we can kill everything with antibiotics. But antibiotics, they are very good to kill bacteria. Antibiotics actually are chemicals produced by fungi to compete against bacteria that are the natural enemies. So the antibiotics, most common antibiotics, are going to be working against 70S ribosomes, which are bacterial ribosomes. So there's no point in using that for viruses, for example, because viruses don't use the 70S ribosome, they actually use our own ribosomes to produce themselves, okay? Antibiotics are going to be blocking the prokaryotes metabolism, so nothing to do with worms or fungi or viruses in itself. For viruses, we are going to be using our own metabolic machine to be reproducing, so in that case, it's not going to be effective to be using antibiotics against them. So they are not affected by antibiotics. There are some antivirus drugs, for example, the anti-HIV drugs, but they are not antibiotics. They work actually lowering our own metabolism, so the virus cannot take advantage of that. So bear in mind, antibiotics are good for bacteria. They are not good for viruses. If you have a bacterial infection, you take antibiotics. If you don't have a bacterial infection, then you're not going to be taking antibiotics. Okay? When you think about defending ourselves, the first barrier of defense is going to be our skin. Our skin is dry, and dry stuff usually is not favored by microorganisms to try to jump, to live, to go through. So many bacteria, many viruses, they don't like it dry. Okay, the skin works as a physical barrier. It is a tough barrier to be crossed. So it's very efficient actually to keep pathogens out. But there are places that we have our skin that are actually not dry. For example, your digestive tract, your mouth, your esophagus, your entire stomach, intestines, they are all wet. Your lungs, your nose, they are all wet. Your eyes, so your urogenital tract, they are all kind of moist. And if it's moist, bacteria, fungus, virus, they will love that. So to protect us against invasion in those wet areas, we have mucus, which is a chemical substance produced by this mucosa, in these non-dry areas, that will be able to stop many pathogens. We have that in our digestive tract, we have that in our gas exchange tract, we have that in our reproductive tract, we have that in our eyes. And what they have, especially that they may have antimicrobial proteins, so proteins that are effective against microbes, antibodies, which are special proteins to fight specific pathogens or pieces of pathogens. The mucus can have a weird pH as well, and they may have white blood cells or leukocytes moving around. So mucus, that's the stuff. It is for wet place to try to stop things that take advantage of things being wet and not dry as our skin. So it is a place that microorganisms will try to enter. So you're going to have here many pathogens over there, antimicrobial proteins, these are antibodies, you have leukocytes over there trying to kill. So it is a place to try to stop even when you have the surface that it's wet. Okay? When a pathogen like a bacteria, virus, whatever, enters your body, one of the first line of defense is going to be phagocytic leukocyte, also known as macrophages, the big eaters. Phagocytic leukocytes are going to be identifying foreign enemy cells that don't belong to your body, and they are going to be engulfing them. They are going to be doing phagocytosis, and they engulf it, close it into a vesicle, and then throw into that vesicle digestive enzymes to kill, destroy that pathogen over there. So this is the first line of defense. Here we have receptors that have identified the bacteria. It has been phagocytosed, put it in there. Then you have a lysosome, a digestive vesicle that digestive enzymes are throwing there. They digest the bacteria, and then they just spit it out. This is one of our first lines of defense. They are quite efficient, but they are not so fast, and they are not very specific. They get anything that don't look like belonging into your body. Okay? What's more efficient and very fast against pathogens is antibodies. So antibodies sounds like antigen. Actually, those two things are quite opposite, so it's important that you don't get confused between them. Antibodies are proteins that are produced by your immune system, and they are going to be identifying antigens. They will be gluing to antigens, and they look like this Y-shaped protein over here, and they are capable of gluing to antigens, stopping, blocking, killing, destroying. No, they cause havoc to microorganisms. Microorganisms, they hate antibodies because that's the stuff that actually, in the end, stops the invasion. Okay, they bind to the antigen, and by binding to the antigen, they will make several different problems to the pathogen itself. The antigen, on the other hand, is usually a protein or a glycoprotein, something that on the surface of the pathogen that is used by our defense to identify the enemy. The typical antigen are proteins, and we have antigens in everywhere. Our own cells have antigens, but usually you don't call them antigens because they are our own. But for example, if you are an AB blood type person, you have protein A and protein B in your red blood cells. Those AB for your body, they belong into here. But if you insert those AB erythrocytes into a person that's blood type O, for example, that don't have AB protein, they are going to be identifying those antigens, and they are going to be fighting against that, producing an immune response, producing antibodies to destroy those A and B proteins. A and B proteins, they are antigens. Okay, as any protein on the surface of viruses, bacteria, fungi, any microorganisms that try to invade us, even the antivenom protein, for example, will be an antigen itself, prions and etc. Okay, so those are the guys. And here they are illustrated as this little weird stuff. Here you have an antigen being identified by an antibody. Here you have another antigen being identified by another antibody. And actually, this is the way that antibodies work. They identify antigens, they glue to them, and they cause problem for whoever possess that antigen. This is the way that go. Okay, so antigens are glued by the antibodies. Okay, so this is the shape of the antibody, this Y shape. This is the representative that we do, and this is a molecular view of this these special proteins. And there we have the antigen, like I just showed you before. This little stuff, these proteins on the membrane that the antibodies will end up gluing. So this is an overview of our defense. Later, in other classes, we are going to be seeing how we put all this into work to fight against invasions. Okay, take a look on the quiz now. I hope you have fun, and I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.